What's up, guys? Welcome back to part two of the Fighter Showcase, and this time we'll be using Sonny Edwards. If you guys are new to the series, last week, or last episode, I should say, of the Fighter Showcase, we used Dmitry Bivol after coming off his excellent performance versus Artur Beterbiev, which he didn't win, but he had an excellent performance, and now we're using Sonny Edwards. I feel like it was good because he has a fight coming up on November 30th, and we put him against Bam here. We put me against Bam here to see how he would do versus Bam in a rematch. We'll say this is the rematch. Uh, I like that he has like opponent in the game. The guy's put together one of the best fights of last year. Put together both guys put together a phenomenal performance. Bam getting the knockout, I believe in the what was it, ninth, 10th, 11th, something like that in the later rounds. But Sonny put up one of to me his best fights. I know he got hurt early in the fight, and he said he couldn't really recover from that. But I really enjoyed that fight because there was times where Sonny he had the upper hand, but Bam started taking over. I know this is Sonny's video, but to talk about Bam real fast, that guy is a maybe top 5 pound for pound fighter in the world. Beating Quadras, Rungvisai, and then Estrada. Who does that? They all were knocking each other out a few years ago, and now Bam has conquered 3 of them, and Chocolatito's next. I don't know if that fight will happen because Bam and Chocolatito were close, but I'd like to see that happen too. I think Bam beats him too. Bam seems to be a little bit too good for his weight class. Like it's almost time for him to move up. I think he should get the Chocolatito fight. I think he has another fight coming up pretty soon, but it might be the rematch versus Estrada. But to me, Bam is gonna be a legendary fighter. He pretty much already is at the age of what, like 24, 25. Doing what he's doing is fantastic. But let's get back to talking about Sonny. He's a fight November 30th against Galal Yafai. Yafai is a not an experienced pro, but a very, very talented fighter. Southpaw, pressure fighter. Even though he only has 8 fights, he has 6 knockouts, and he has the pro experience. He has had 2 brothers that have been competing in professional boxing since the early 2010s. So when you look at a guy like that, you don't really know what he brings to the table. Not a lot of pro fights. Doesn't seem to have a lot of experience. It's a good amateur background. But we just saw with Terrence Crawford and Israel Madrimov, you don't have that many pro fights to put on a show, and that's what Madrimov did versus Crawford. And I think Yafai is going to do similar versus Sonny Edwards. To talk about Sonny Edwards for a minute, the guy is slick. I mean, he's just a slick fighter. Not a hard puncher at all. He said he doesn't look for knockouts, but the guy is hard to hit. He's very hard to hit. He was giving Bam some issues for a while. Hitting him. I think Bam's the best little guy in the world outside of anyway. I think he might even be better than Gervonta at this moment, at least resume-wise. So we'll see what Sonny can do versus Yafai. To predict the fight, being a southpaw, Yafai is going to be tough because he's going to be aggressive and moving towards Sonny. He punches pretty hard. 8 fights, 6 knockouts, 8 wins. I don't think he has the experience to catch up to Sonny. I think he'll catch Sonny a few times throughout the fight, but if you don't hurt Sonny, it's like you lost. You can't outbox the guy. You can't outbox the guy at all. I think Bam did it. Bam has about a 7-inch reach advantage on Sonny, but I believe that Sonny is one of the most talented fighters we have out right now. One of the slickest fighters in the world. He sees everything. It seems like he sees everything. There's nothing he's missing. Like I said, not a power puncher. I got Sonny winning this upcoming fight by unanimous decision. I like watching Sonny a lot, and some people would say he's boring because he's not always going for a knockout. But I think it's good to see somebody that's just being slick and just moving and being himself. And he's a funny guy to watch. He's actually one of the biggest ambassadors for the Undisputed Game. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he was one of the main ones they wanted to talk about and wanted to build the game and push the game. He was always in the studio playing the game and all that stuff. But as you can see, trying to fight a little bit like Sonny here against Bam. Bam's one of the best fighters in the game. I feel like he should probably be rated higher than he is. I believe he's like an 87. I would put him up to that 89, 90 range. I think Bam is going to be fantastic for the next few years, and he's going to be. I have no doubt that one day he'll be a pound for pound king. But what this is about, as we're watching Sonny kind of get pieced up here by Bam is about the what we just had last weekend and the future 154 because we just saw, man, we just saw Tim Tszyu get annihilated. Something that nobody, not a single person expected. Not a single person. Tim Tszyu this time last year seemed to be on top of 154. You know, Jermell had been gone. I fought Canelo, lost. We haven't seen him since then. That was a while ago. Tim Tszyu coming off taking a world title, you know, beating Brian Mendoza, people like that, beating Ocampo. It looked like Tim Tszyu was on top of the world for a time. And I believe that he's a great fighter. Like I don't know about great fighter, but I believe that he's a really, really talented fighter. He can bounce back. But let's talk about Bachram, man. Berkram, I don't know. But he annihilated Tim, man. There's no other way to say it. The first left hook that really landed dropped Tim. It looked like Tim couldn't see the left at all. And instead of getting defensive and getting smart after getting dropped, he just started trying to be a gladiator and go forward, which is great to see because, you know, Tim will fight anybody. Tim doesn't care. He don't care who. He was calling out Crawford, Fedora, Spence, Charlo. He said, we're going to fight all of them. And I love that about Tim Tszyu. That's why I like watching him fight so much. I like tuning in to seeing what he's going to do because, like his name said, he's a soul taker. He's going out there and trying to get everybody. But, you know, after having such a great last year, it's unfortunate that this year, you know, early this year, he lost a split decision to Fedora in a fight that he was probably going to win. All right, I'm not going to say for sure that he was going to win the fight, but we saw the first couple rounds before that cut. You know, leaning into a 6'6", 154-pounder's elbow, getting cut, and having pretty much not being able to see because of blood. There's blood in your eyes everywhere. I'm sure it's stinging. He couldn't see a thing, and the guy 6'6", raining down punches. A 6'6" pressure fighter raining down punches on you. I'm sure Tim Tszyu couldn't see a thing, and he ended up not getting the decision in that fight. And there's a chance he still could have, but the fight was trending a certain direction before that cut, and everything changed. I believe that Tim Tszyu would have walked away with his title still after that night. But he did get the loss. You know, boxing stuff happens. But Saturday, I expected him to have a tough fight. I didn't know much about Bachram. I didn't know much about him. I never seen him fight. You know, he doesn't fight on TV much. He has a good resume, or not a great resume. Hasn't fought many very great opponents, but he was world champion. He was world champion, the IBF Super Welterweight world champion for a while. And Tim Tszyu had to take it from him. You know, that was his thing, and you know, they say you get 30% better as a champion. I don't know about that, but Bachram looked like he was unbeatable that night. Everything he caught Tim Tszyu with, everything he hit Tim Tszyu with, Tim Tszyu looked hurt by it. That by the second round, the fight was over. Left hook, drop. Right hand, dropped him. Everything. Tim Tszyu was hurt, and I think Tim Tszyu has, you know, he got PTSD or something from that. What was it? That elbow, that cut. Because as soon as he felt any contact, I think they accidentally clashed heads a little bit in that, was it first or second round? Tim Tszyu went and touched the spot where he got cut the last time, you know, hoping it didn't open up. And I think he may have been a little bit worried about that going into this fight. Not really quite the same. He was just trying to go forward and fight the guy. And the guy has a reach advantage. He's a hard puncher. Tim's susceptible to the left hook, which he got dropped by Terrell Gasha. So when you see a guy like that, you can't just go forward. You can't just go forward and only go forward, and unless you're behind great defense. And Tim Tszyu wasn't behind great defense that night. I don't think he was as sharp. I don't believe he was on his A game, but I don't know if that would change the result. I think Bachram would beat him anyway. You know, the way it was so easy. The fact that he got him out there in 3 rounds and dropped him 4 or 5 times. Tim Tszyu didn't look like he didn't have a chance in there. And I know Tim Tszyu's a good fighter. Very talented fighter, but we got to see what's next. And what does this mean for 154? Because Tim Tszyu won't be getting another title shot probably in the next year. He has to build back up. We need to have a new opponent for that guy because I would take a tune-up, to be honest, to get his mojo back, to get his rhythm back. And you know, I'm not a guy who's going to say, you need to take a bunch of tune-ups because I think you should be fighting the best all the time. But in Tim's situation, he's not gonna be fighting the best anyway because he just had his chance and he looked pretty bad. I'll be honest, he didn't look great. So I think he should go ahead, try and get himself a tune-up fight or two, and come back next year and win those fights convincingly. Come back next year and look for somebody. I guess the year after that, and look for somebody very, very, you know, up there in the rankings. I think he doesn't need to be in the world title scene until he gets a couple more wins. But there's guys around. For Tszyu, I'd say the winner of the Overtime Boxing League tournament. Why not take that? Why not take that guy? I think that would be huge. It's I know Brandon Adams is one of them. I can't think of. I think it's Katsouridis. That's the other on the other side of that bracket. I think the winner of that fight will be a very good next fight for Tim Tszyu. I don't believe in either of those fighters are at that level yet, but they're having a 154 tournament over there. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Tim Tszyu versus Brandon Adams if Adams wins, or the other guy wins. Either one, I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I don't think Tim Tszyu needs to fight a top level opponent. And now what's scary about Bakram is you don't really know much about him. You just saw him destroy Tim Tszyu on TV one time. And there was tweets going around. Crawford said, "I told y'all," stuff like that. Bakram called out Crawford. Bakram called out Fundora, and he called out Spence. He wants smoke with everybody. And Tim Tszyu wants smoke with everybody. But now Tim Tszyu's out the picture for now. And now Bakram wants smoke with everybody. And I'm telling you, he's a matchup problem for a lot of 154s. He has decent height. He's like 5'11", a long reach, a hard puncher. That guy's going to give a lot of guys problems. While Crawford's saying, "I told y'all," they might try to make that fight next. I doubt it. I highly doubt it because that's another Madrimov type fight for Crawford if that makes sense. Madrimov was very, very unknown before fighting Crawford. People were saying he's the best fighter at 154. He may have been, but nobody would know that until he fought Crawford. And Crawford escaped that fight by the skin of his teeth. I mean, it was I thought Crawford won, not by a lot of rounds, but he clearly won the fight. But had Madrimov been a little bit more in the pro scene and had that experience, Madrimov probably takes that fight, I'm going to be honest, or drops Crawford or hurts Crawford or something, which that kind of killed the Canelo fight for Crawford. But Bakram at 154 is a high risk, low reward fight. I think, him being the IBF champion, he can try and unify with a bunch of the champions. I think his next fight will probably be a title defense versus somebody, because he can get back in the ring quick after beating Tim Tszyu like that. He'll probably defend versus somebody and look at the other world champions, look at the landscape of things. But I could see Bakram, what I like to see is Bakram, Jermell Charlo when Jermell comes back. I don't know if Jermell should come back and, go straight to him, but Jermell's the best fighter at 154. At least he was, before going back to Canelo. He was an undisputed champion. I could see that fight happening, and I can also see what I would hope for is after Ennis fights Karen Chikazian, might as well go to 154, mixes up everybody up there. You try and get that fight with Bakram. Why not? I don't see the reason why he wouldn't. They both have the IBF. They're both. Jaron needs to go to 154. Jaron needs to go to 154 because ain't nobody at 147. Who's there to fight? He's fighting the same guy again that he just beat all 12 rounds. He's fighting him again. He's probably going to stop him this time. He's going to adjust and stop him this time. Brian Norman Jr. fell through. There's nowhere else to go. The future of 154 is already there. There's Virgil Ortiz is already up there. Spence is up there. Fundora's up there. Lubin, Jesus Ramos, Joey Spencer. Like, I say Joey Spencer, like he's a world title contender, but I mean, he's up there too. There's a lot of guys there, Jermell Charlo, Tim Tszyu, Brian Mendoza, Carlos Ocampo. Like, that's one of the deepest divisions in boxing. Brandon Adams. Like, there's so many guys at that weight class that we need to go ahead and move Ennis up there and have a 154-pound tournament. I know they're not going to make a tournament, but a tournament. We need to see who the best is, because right now I don't know. I don't know that. To me, the best fighter at 154 right now is Crawford. I don't know if Crawford beats everybody at 154. I'm not confident that he beats a lot of guys, because Crawford came up from 135 and he's 37 years old. There's a chance that Crawford, and he's inactive. There's a chance that Crawford, his skill is deteriorating. Maybe he was a lot better than Majima, but his skill and his speed is deteriorating at 37. Usually fighters retire way before 37, and Crawford's still fighting, but he's not active. Um, he's fighting against bigger fighters, and there's a chance that soon he gets caught. He gets caught by somebody. Uh, so Crawford should be careful. He can't take too tough of a fight. Um, well, he can, but if he's going to, he needs to do it now. He can't be waiting around. He needs to stay active, stay in that ring. I know he wants a Canelo fight, but I don't see the Canelo fight happening. I believe Canelo does his thing, you know, against Crawford. I think he stops Crawford. I think he knocks him out. We saw what happened with Canelo and Jamel, and I think Crawford's a better fighter than but Jamel's bigger. Jamel's bigger than Crawford. Um, and Crawford's gonna, as I get dropped right there by Jesse Rodriguez, Bam Rodriguez. I mean, Bam is something else. Bam is something else, man. I wish he was big enough to fight at 154. And I know he's not even close, but the skill. I'm talking about the skill. We saw if we could see him against Crawford, if we could see him against Canelo, just skill-wise, not size-wise. If they were just the same height, same weight, in a pound-for-pound situation, I'd love to see Bam versus Crawford. I'd love to see Bam versus Canelo. I'd love to see Bam versus Usyk. If they were all pound-for-pound, man, if they were all in the same weight class, that would be amazing. But 154 is popping right now, and I think we're just going to keep getting great fights. Spence is going to return versus Fedor. I don't know when that is. I love watching Spence. Spence is one of my favorite fighters in the world. I don't know when he's going to fight Fedor. I thought it was going to be summer this year. And it's pushed back to fall. Now pushed back to winter. Now it's pushed back to next year. Spence is not active enough, man. And I love watching Spence fight. One of my favorite fighters, like I said. I don't believe that he truly was who he should have been versus Crawford. I don't think he went in that ring at his best. I'm sure of it. But you know, we may see a rematch at 154 between Crawford and Spence. It doesn't need to happen, but it could happen. I think Crawford would always beat him. I think Crawford just has his number, but I think Spence could put on a better fight than that. Fedor and Spence is a good fight. I'll probably talk about that a different time. But we got to see what happens at 154. That's the most entertaining division in boxing. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think should be the next fight for some of these guys. Where should Bakram go? Where should Lubin? Where should Tszyu go? Where should Crawford go next? Where should Madrimov? Where should Boachuk? I didn't mention Boachuk. I didn't mention Ortiz. I didn't mention Madrimov. I didn't mention none of those guys. Those guys might be the best fighters at 154, really, because we just saw Boachuk. He might have beaten Virgil Ortiz. He dropped him twice. You know, Ortiz was boxing well, you know, towards the end of the fight, but that looked strange. That was a strange looking fight. And I thought Ortiz would beat Boachuk. I knew it was going to be a tough fight. I thought Ortiz would beat him and maybe stop him late. But Boachuk is serious. I believe he's going to fight Madrimov at some point on some card. And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Turkey Al-Sheikh is making stuff happen, man, at 154. And I love it. I love it. Like, that's exactly what should have been going on. Fighters not fighting each other shouldn't be happening. There's no reason Spence and Crawford should have fought that late. Turkey would have made that fight in an instant. As I get hurt again and dropped again by Bam in a body shot. Dude, we're playing on undisputed difficulty here. Man, I'm trying to use Sonny the best of my ability. Trying to get up here. 5, 6, 7. We're up at 7, man. Bam is tough in this game, but I'm trying to use Sonny how Sonny is playing. I don't think I'd win this fight anyway, man. Sonny doesn't have the power, I don't think, to compete with a guy like Bam. He can't drop him. Can't really hurt him. And I think, but that's how Sonny fights, and I think he'll beat Yafai when his time comes, when his fight comes. I think Sonny's a very, very talented fighter, and he's still relatively young, so we'll see a lot more from him. But as I seen a rock band there, try to push forward a little bit, but I just don't have enough power, don't have enough stamina to withstand. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, you know, about 154, about Sonny's upcoming fight, those things. But I kind of did. We're looking at a cut here. We good to go, Kenny? We good. So I kind of felt bad for Tszyu though. Like, he was kind of fighting everybody. He was on a tear last year, and it seems like he's just fallen. Not even that he's falling necessarily. I wouldn't say he's falling off. it's hard to say he's falling off after after having a good perform. Everybody knows what happened, right? Everybody knows what happened against Fedora with Tszyu. Everybody knows what happened, right? But I feel bad because first he looked so sad, after losing that fight, which is reasonable. He didn't fight well, but he was just world champion on top of the world. It feels like I lost because of a cut, and now I try to come back, and I take a high risk, I guess a decently high reward fight because that's for a world title reward fight, and end up getting knocked out in 3 rounds and making myself look bad after trying to call out all these big names. I understand. I felt bad for him though, man. I felt like he was trying his best in there, and he's a fighter that always wants smoke, and I like that the 154 fighters seem to always want smoke with everybody because you can't just step in there with anybody. But Tszyu was trying to force fights. I believe he had the Lubin fight lined up. It didn't work out. He had the Charlo fight lined up for a year, trying to get Charlo, and he never got Charlo. Because Charlo wanted to fight Canelo, and Charlo's Charlo. But yeah, I think Tszyu can bounce back. If anybody can bounce back, I think it's him with his mentality. I think he has to tighten up his defense. I think he has to take some tune-ups, get his head together, because that cut I think that cut's killing him. I think the cut was what killed him in that fight. Second round, you're thinking about the cut. You think about the cut, you can't think about fighting. If every time you get hit, oh man, did my cut open back up? Did my stitches? Did this happen? Did this happen? They said he was cut so bad that he's a V on his forehead, a V. Like you don't get. It is hard to get hit like that, or have something like that happen in a boxing ring, and then come back and have to fight again. But like we said, Tszyu's a warrior, and he'll do that, and he'll keep pushing, and he'll keep moving on, like he said it himself. But let's look at the Sonny Edwards versus Bam Rodriguez. We're getting towards the end of this fight. The championship rounds, trying to sit down on some punches. Sonny Edwards, man, a great fighter. Only 4 knockouts, but to me, he's an entertaining slick fighter. He likes to do the Olay, all that stuff. Moves well. I think I showcased him pretty well in this fight. Maybe we'll do another one where maybe I don't fight Bam Rodriguez because we're looking at a guy here who's almost unbeatable. But because right now we're getting torn apart. I feel like this fight looks somewhat like their fight in real life. I don't know if you guys see the same thing, but I think it looks similar with the way Bam is pressing. But at times Sonny's catching him with some good shots, stuff like that. As we're throwing combinations, trying to drop him in these late rounds, trying to find a way to win in these late rounds. But Bam is too skilled, too technical, and punches too hard. As we get hurt again with the left hand. I didn't even realize, I didn't think about it, but Bam is a southpaw, and so is Yafai. So we'll see how that goes. Yafai is not the fighter that Bam is, but it may be enough. It may be enough as we get dropped right there to the body. I mean, everything is just hurting us bad. And we're gonna try to get up here. Gonna try and get up here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and yeah, guys, we get stopped here by Bam Rodriguez in the second episode of the Fighter Showcase. That was the toughest fight, man. Bam is very realistic in this game. Very, very hard to fight. But let me know what you guys think about the future of the 154-pound division below, and Sonny Edwards' next fight. Episode 2 of the Fighter Showcase. I'll see y'all next time.